Dude, feel like I'm starting to turn into fucking like Jabba the Hutt or what's his name, Stephen Hawking, just because like
they're so similar.
Well,
I easily confused.
I mean, just in the sense that like the way, because I'm doing this.
Well, they're both criminal masterminds and geniuses. So what way are you trying to?
I mean,
this?
in the sedateness way. Like I literally like I'm doing the work from home thing now, and I got it so like my desk is on one side, and I have my computer monitor on a lazy Susan. So literally, all I have to do is turn it around, 180 degrees, and I can work from my bed. So there's like, days where it's just like, oh no need for pants, or no need to get out of bed for like many hours today. And it's very awesome, but I'm almost like wondering if it's too much of a good thing.
No, it probably is. I mean, I would say, like, I don't own that many nice things, you know what I mean? But one thing that, Ash and I sprung for, because we were like, this is an investment. Like, we don't have like nice cars, mm-hmm. but we have what I would call a nice bed. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
We have I want to say it's a Sleep Number bed. I'm trying to remember the brand, but it's one of those beds where you can like recline. You can recline it, or you can sit it up with your remote and shit. You can do it with your cell phone, but it's like, oh, let's go into zero G for a little bit, and it'll raise like your knees up a little bit, and then your back, and like, oh, I'm snoring. Let's tilt you up. That is one of the only things I think you're missing is just the ability to like control how your blood flow would work a little bit better.
Yeah, I need some sort of twist. Actually, my new mattress is pretty great because like I for years was sleeping on the worst mattress in the fucking universe. So the mattress I'm on is relatively new, but like, yeah, if I want the next level and got like a water bed, or like a one of those things where you can like change pre-programmed modes for like back massages and stuff, like,
Oh yeah.
But
well, why do they still have the vibrating beds that are in like CD motel rooms?
Those I think I've all
Magic Fingers and stuff.
I think I've seen one of those in my life, but not in the last decade. I feel like that's like it's got to exist somewhere, but like it's definitely like a dying breed. It's kind of like I feel like if you see one of those, it's like seeing like a telephone booth that like might actually work or something.
I feel like I could either drive to Arizona or Nevada and find one of them. Somewhere on like an abandoned highway.
It's one of those things that they'll like put on episodes of like Travel Channel exposés, like we go to visit the last Magic Fingers in Little Homes, Alabama, or something. You know what I mean? Like
totally. I mean, my favorite, because I always think of Endless Mike in Pete and Pete killing one of the wrestlers. Do you remember that? Where he kills one of the high school wrestlers with a Magic Fingers bed, and Little Pete is trying to save him, but Endless Mike just is too diabolical.
I do remember, because that was a two-parter, wasn't it? The one where wasn't it like two villains teamed up to there was like Paper Cut?
No, Paper Cut, and that was I think that was like a season premiere. I want to say of one of the later seasons, but no, Endless Mike, he wants to like Big Pete joins the wrestling team, and he wants to make varsity. Mm-hmm. So he like, and then Endless Mike obviously is. I think he transfers schools so that he can
fight him.
Basically fight, so he can wrestle him also. Man. And then Pete's like trying to duck him, so he's trying to lose weight, and he's like just eating like a carrot and then Endless Mike is more diabolical. He was pulling his teeth out to make weigh-ins. He was literally he removes one of his kidneys. You just can't escape him. You know what I mean?
My
God. No, I'm having fun watching HBO Max, and the reason this brings it comes to mind because I'm watching Band of Brothers over again.
Oh, nice.
I think for maybe the third time, which is like I've had access to Band of Brothers because I've had regular HBO, but like for whatever reason I finally figured out I have HBO Max, and so I hooked that up, got it like started an account or whatever. It just comes with
So
HBO.
I was about to ask you that because I was gonna say when you said you weren't aware you had it, I was like, I get HBO. Does that mean I also get HBO Max now?
I think you do, yeah, because it's included in my cable package, and I just had to create my login.
Oh, cool.
And when I say I created it, Ash did it for me because I can't be bothered to figure out how it all works. So Ash took care of it. She did it. But Endless Mike, whoever that actor is in Band of Brothers.
No kidding.
And you're watching, he'll be Endless Mike to me,
Forever,
like, no matter what he does, like, forever. Yeah. So like, it's wild to kind of like, he's like all dressed up as like a World War II, paratrooper, and he's running around. But like to me, it's just skeezy scumbag Endless Mike.
Yeah.
So, but no, I love it.
Well, so tell me what, like, because so it's a streaming service for HBO. Is this like, what is the difference between this and HBO Go? Like, I still don't entirely understand the. Like, I thought the idea was like it's for people that don't want to actually subscribe to HBO. You get HBO Max for cheaper.
I think I can't imagine it's cheaper. Once again, I'm not really a real man. I'm not an adult. I don't know what my cable bill costs.
Yeah, me neither.
I have a woman who is an actual accountant. You might think that Ash makes her living talking about watching the movie Big.
Right.
But you're wrong. She actually has a real job, and she does, a real adult shit. And so she pays all these bills. I don't know what these cost. So I had to Google, what does HBO Max even cost? I think it's like $15 a month. And I don't understand exactly what all the difference is because I still have HBO Go. So I watch everything through my PlayStation, and you just click on like Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, whatever apps you're trying to use. So I still have HBO Go. And HBO Go, do I have HBO Max? I have HBO Max, but I have HBO Go. What's the other one? HBO Plus?
Yeah. Oh no, it's not Plus.
Well,
it's HBO Now. Isn't that one of them?
HBO Now.
But that's the thing is there's too many adjectives or whatever. Like
So I would literally be laying in bed at like 3 a.m, like, oh, okay, I want to watch an episode of like Curb or something, right? It's like, hold on, which one is it? Go?
Do I want to watch HBO Now, or do I want to watch HBO on the go? Or?
Right. I literally day to day, I can't remember which one it is.
That's bad
because
branding.
I'm scrolling through my iPad and it's wherever, you know what I mean? Like the way it's set up, it's a nightmare. I should reorganize it and make it more, but it's just based on like what order they were downloaded in. So I'm scrolling through the pages of apps and shit looking for these streaming apps. Anyway, I digress.
I feel like
HBO Max.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was going to say that just sounds like the current state of like the streaming industry now that's like a metaphor for the whole thing, because it's just like, where was that new show I was trying to watch? Is it on Prime? Is it on Plus? Is it on Hulu? Is it on Bleep Blop? Or I feel like what's that new streaming service, Flim Flam? Like it's just hard to keep track of them these days.
I mean, because I just immediately checked out. When did HBO Max come about?
Very recently, like in the last month, I would say, right?
Yeah. Like, I know it's very new, but it immediately, like, I've been basically just glancing over, I see headlines like, oh, the Snyder Cut is going to come to HBO Max. And I would just go, oh, well, that's nice. I mean, you might as well put it on CBS All Access. I'm not going to watch that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to buy that.
Exactly.
So everything that was like, oh, this is happening. Oh, there's a new Adventure Time show that's going to HBO, and I go, oh, okay. I would just discount it. Like,
yeah.
Huh. You know what I mean? It'd be like, Tom Cruise just bought a new house that you're never.
Right. It's like, cool. Okay. That's nice.
It means nothing.
It has no effect on me. You mean you're telling me you weren't jazzed by the Not So Late show with Elmo? You weren't like.
No. Yeah, exactly. Because I never thought, in my wildest dreams that I would get to taste that sweet, sweet nectar of the Snyder Cut or whatever, unless you hit the 7 C's. You know what I mean? And so, like, you got to be in the right mood to strap on the boots, pull on the boots, get Petey the pirate, put you know what I mean? Grab your hook hand,
Get
and
ready
hit the
to
seven C's. So
delouse your computer from any
yeah,
horrible viruses or whatever.
totally right. How many pop-ups are you going to try
Yeah.
to avoid clicking on to hit press go? You know what I mean? So like, anyway, so I didn't realize that I'm watching South Park on Hulu, and I'm like, oh, it's going away. It's going away. You know, where's it going? What's happening? You know what I mean?
So
it's going to HBO
so
Max.
it's only going to be on HBO Max now. I didn't realize that.
I think it is, right. So like
interesting.
I'd be watching, like, I'd throw on a random South Park or whatever. I was trying to kind of like catch up on the later seasons, because I stopped watching like just consistently stopped watching like 10 years ago,
wow.
maybe, probably, you know what I mean? So I was like, oh shit, you know, I didn't quite make it. There's so many seasons I still haven't seen. Where is it going? Oh, it's going to HBO Max. It's dead to me. It's gone. And I might just throw it down a bottomless pit for all I care. I'm not paying for another streaming
Right.
service. And Ash goes, oh, you idiot. I think we get HBO Max. And I'm like, wait a second. What are you saying? Are you saying I'm going to get to watch the Snyder Cut? I'm going to get to watch South
You are
Park?
lucky enough.
Yes.
Well, okay,
Yes.
okay. So
I would be dead, lying in a ditch if it weren't for Ash. I would not be able. I wouldn't have HBO
that
Max.
goes without saying.
I wouldn't be clothed. I wouldn't have a roof over my head. Probably, I'd be dead. I'd be living in a men's shelter. I've said this multiple times, I think.
you just be homeless and muttering to yourself walking down the street. The Snyder Cut.
I think
the
that's
Snyder
the
Cut. I
only
need to see
thing
the
that
Snyder
saves
Cut.
certain men from homelessness.
Yeah.
Is having someone that can just be like, no, hold on. This is how the electrical bill works. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't zig, if you zig when you should have zagged, I think that's the difference.
Yes.
Honestly, is just having someone kind of like manage your shit a little bit, right? So thank God for Ash. Watching HBO Max, it's incredible. I know we teased this a little bit, but HBO Max is the number one streaming. If I have Netflix, I have Hulu, I have Amazon Prime because we have Amazon Prime. I have Amazon Prime Video or whatever it's called. And I'm trying to think of anything else. I think that's it. That's pretty much.
So
And then
the appeal is basically it's just got really good movie selections and just the fact that you can access all of HBO's library of programming at once.
right? And so to my understanding, you have, and I've gone through. I'm a really sick person where Ash hates me for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I might lose her. Over this. But I love to just scrounge. You ever just lose yourself and like,
Oh, yeah.
you're just digging through Netflix, you're digging through whatever, and like you're just.
I feel like I
you know, you
spend
don't
more
ever
time
pick- you
looking
don't
for
ever-
stuff than
Oh,
I do actually
absolutely.
watching stuff.
So like, imagine my surprise. You know what I mean? Like I just get gifted this like
New
amazing
cornucopia.
new vault
Yeah,
of shit.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just standing there. I'm just, one night I think I clocked myself like 48 minutes of just. Because the way they have it set up where you make your profile, whatever, Ash and I each have a profile, there's still some kinks to work out because anything I add would go to her watch list and anything she added went to my watch list. So it's all just a mishmash of just nonsense where, she's got all the Harry Potter films in hers. I've got, Seven Samurai in mine and Metalocalypse or something. You know what I mean? So things that she has absolutely no interest in. But it is probably, I don't know. I like some of Netflix's original shit. Hulu largely, like.
But there's like
take it or
definitely a
leave it.
different pedigree for HBO stuff compared to every. Like
Oh,
they
dude,
definitely
like,
have
well,
the best
so-
quality above.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like kind of like a quality versus quantity thing because that's really the thing that's
But-
kept HBO afloat in the HBO versus Netflix war is like. HBO has less product, but there's a greater chance like all of their stuff is going to be primo or a good percentage of it.
Right. And they just, so HBO Max is all of HBO plus just a shit ton of things that I haven't been able to see or find kind of anywhere else. So, I mean, well done to whoever's the content like scrounger over there of just signing these deals or whatever. And it's Warner Media, whatever, I don't know. And, but like all of Adult Swim, all the Adult Swim classics, home movies, Metalocalypse, Robot Chicken, Samurai Jack, Rick and Morty is all in there. I'm watching, Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Oh, nice!
You know what I
Wow.
mean? Some of the
Talk about
just
classics.
classic shit from our childhood. You know what I mean? That we're just like, Boondocks is in there, Aqua Teen Hunger Force. You know what I mean? You just, it goes on and on. I mean, it's not a huge library of Adult Swim stuff, but it's like it's the hits. You know what I mean? So I'm watching. I can never say his name. Is it Gendy
Tartakovsky?
Tartakovsky?
Yeah, Samurai Jack guy.
His show, Samurai Jack guy. So his show Primal.
That's a great show.
Yeah, so like we were watching it. Ash is, all shook up watching it. You know what I mean? Just we don't know spoilers, but it is
emotionally
brutal, so.
grueling.
Totally, yeah. You're watching just people, children, baby dinosaurs, you name it, getting murdered. You know what I mean? Just being eaten. It is just nature out there. You know what I mean? So it's wild. But I mean, just all the Cartoon Network classics. You've got, Adventure Time, obviously, Dexter's Laboratory. You've got kind of all of the new Cartoon Network shit that I don't really care about, like Regular Show and Uncle Grandpa, stuff like that. Like I just don't know what, you know what I mean? So, you've got like all the Crunchyroll hits. I'm watching Berserk. I'm watching the new Berserk because the old Berserk, which is supreme, number one, you cannot top this. I think that's all on YouTube.
Oh wow!
So you can always just go back and kind of watch that. But the new version of Berserk that's been out for maybe like a year or two, a couple of years now, that's all on there. The Criterion Collection, like the entire Criterion Collection, like
that.
It's all.
I know
on
they
there.
got the Miyazaki movies on there, which is like a big deal because they never streamed.
There's a ton of them. Yeah, like Lone Wolf and Cub is on there. It's in the series section.
That's awesome.
But I think it's the movie versions of Lone Wolf and Cub that are actually
like the classic 70s ones and everything.
Yeah, so like I added a bunch. I don't think it's the show. I think it's the.
It's like a series of movies, right?
Movies?
Yeah, because that's part of the Criterion Collection, I think.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, you name it, dude. Like it's just it goes on and on. Like I said, not a huge thing for me, but all the Harry Potter films.
Cool.
Classic, all the. I guess it would be like, is it I'm trying to remember Bonnaroo. What I'm trying to remember what all the old classic cartoons like what's it called, like
Tex Avery kind of shit, or like
I'm talking like Flintstones, Jetsons, Johnny Quest, a lot of Hanna-Barbera. Yeah, but like all of that is on there. So we were just watching Jetsons the other night, eating dinner, watching the Jetsons, and we're like, Jesus, some of this didn't hold up.
Right.
Like at one point, they have one of those like old timey computer cards, like a punch card. They put into a damn machine to make them a pizza. Like put in the punch card for pizza.
I mean, that show is like half a century old now, more.
I mean, it's old as shit. I think it's like 70 years old, right? 60 years old. When did it
probably
come out?
60.
In like the mid 60s?
Yeah. I probably because what the Flintstones came out first, and that was like early to mid 60s.
Right. I mean, we sit here in the year of our Lord 2020, right? Is that still happening? So I mean, think about how some of it was fascinating, but other things were like, Jesus, they really missed the mark on that.
Yeah.
One.
Well, and in general, it always seemed like the Jetsons were kind of like almost like the hangers-on. It was like the Family Guy to the Simpsons. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, there was this thing that came by first, and you're famous, but you're like the Jetsons exists as a response to the Flintstones. It was like some people were like, hey, the Flintstones really worked. What if we did future shit instead of past shit? And I don't think anyone remembers like the Flintstones lasted like many seasons or whatever, like some ridiculous number, and like I think the Jetsons was only on for like 2 or 3 seasons or whatever. So
yeah, I don't know. Let me say this because we also watched the first episode of the Flintstones. Fred Flintstone is a piece of shit.
Oh yeah,
he's just an asshole to Barney Rubble the whole time. Yeah. Barney Rubble is just a delightful neighbor next to. He's basically how Homer treats Flanders or how Cartman treats Kyle. It is like, I was like, I don't remember Barney just being a violent piece of shit to Barney Rubble, but I was like, he's like openly threatening assault upon him for like inconveniencing him on his day off. And so it's wild, dude.
I mean, is it basically just like
oh,
the Honeymooners, but like,
Basically, yeah. But I guess like I never really watched the Honeymooners, so I don't.
But that
doesn't really.
It felt like that was.
But I've heard that.
That's kind of like the DNA of like what a sitcom, even if it was animated, had to be in the day. Like it's crazy how ingrained in all of those formats. It's like The kind of asshole dad or like
Totally.
husband or whatever. It's like, or Married with Children. Like it's the same format. Like decades later.
But even Al Bundy wasn't like, he was too lazy to be violent.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's true.
I don't remember him threatening violence other than like, threatening like the fat chicks that would come in to try on shoes. He would like insult them and say like, I'm going to throw you out. Right. He would say stuff like that to them. But I was like, wow, this is
did not age
just
well.
wild to watch. Anyway, Barney Rubble, he's dead to me. But I mean, dude, it's just, man, I could go on and on about the things that
as far as streaming services go, you brought up a point that I kind of thought was interesting, like because I just finally like I'm like 10 years behind everyone else, but I finally got a fucking Roku, and I must admit it's like pretty nice just being able to have access to all these channels and like specialized content and stuff. But I've definitely noticed, like, because there are all these new streaming services coming out, and there's a bunch that I had the exact same attitude that you were talking about with HBO Max, like, where you're like, oh, I wouldn't give a shit about this normally, like, no fucking way, and then, like, they're like, oh, wait, it's free for a year? Okay, I'll try it out. So, like, I've had that with Disney Plus, I've had that with Apple TV, or whatever it is, Apple TV Plus and stuff. Like, I've definitely noticed these streaming companies giving out the free year subscription so they can be like, oh no, we got to get, like, that's their window is like, okay, we've got them. So if we can just find one show to hook them with it, like, if you get comfortable with the idea of watching it, even if you're not invested in it that much, you'll be like, okay, cool, I'll pay $8 a month or whatever for it. But,
yeah, I think it's like $15 a month if you don't have any sort of other HBO
interesting
situation. So I still think that it's worth that price. I mean, $15. That's
pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to choose one, man, and you have kids, it ranges from, dude, there's just so much kids content, so much adult content, the whole Criterion collection. Like, I was like, oh, you know what, pull up my watch list right now. We'll go through it, but I'm like, oh god, it's all over the place. It's like, it's everything from, like I said, Johnny Quest, but every Godzilla movie is on there,
cool.
like the whole Toho collection, like everything they did.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's just like,
I forgot. I think Warner Brothers has like a really good home video and streaming. Like they'll stream other like distributors like movies or something like that. So I think like they probably have access to that shit like more so than most other media companies out there. So
I mean, I think every Kubrick film is on there. I for the most part, I know I've seen 2001: A Space Odyssey. I've seen Lolita on there. I've seen Full Metal Jacket on there. Amelie is on there. Apocalypse Now, all the Batman, all the DC stuff, Doom Patrol. I think everything that they made for the, I want to say almost everything they made for the DC streaming app is on there somehow.
Interesting.
A lot of DC animated things, like the standalone kind of like OVA Batman stuff that has come out over the last like 20 years is on there. There's like a Batman Beyond movie. There's old stuff. There's like TCM classics. There's like Bonnie and Clyde. Cool Hand Luke, bro.
That's sweet.
Cool Hand Luke, throwing it back to the old See
Cool previous Luke. Episode. Enough said.
Yeah, see our last episode where But I did some research. Did you see my post? Because I think when I put it up on Facebook, I said, you've basically escaped this because men have died trying to do the egg eating challenge.
That's something like no joke. I would not mess with.
Sounds about right. Yeah. So apparently, a guy in India died on a dare to try it. And then someone else died. I was reading articles, bro.
Dude, I mean, it makes sense. That's so much cholesterol. Like, that is... I wouldn't wish that on one of my enemies,
Yeah, it's going to be tough. So, I think the Cold Hand Luke challenge may have to be postponed. I think the Cadbury egg challenge is still very intriguing to me.
It's intriguing, but I don't wish diabetes upon myself either. I love Cadbury eggs.
How many Cadbury eggs do you think
I could probably eat a lot because those things are like crack to me. Like, no joke. That's my favorite.
Could you eat 10?
Yeah, I could
you eat 10 mashed up in a bowl?
Oh, hell yeah. That if we're talking 10, then fuck yeah. That's like, you wouldn't even really need to coerce me that much because I'd have a validation for eating 10 Cadbury eggs, but
well, they have made them smaller over the years too. Like, have you ever noticed that when we were kids growing up, they were the size of your fist?
Well, you can get them in 2
and now
packs.
they're like a Robin.
Well, like you can get them in different sets. They had the regular size ones, but then you can get like a pack of 5 that are like the Robin.
I mean, I've seen the little ones. Like, aren't these guys?
Yeah,
cute?
yeah, not quite like that. Yeah.
Get out of here, dude. I want remember the bins of them? Like, they had their own display and they're in this big cardboard bin and like scraps of the tinfoil are missing because little 5-year-old kids are just rummaging their filth hands right through that thing and you're just picking them up going, it's probably fine to eat.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
I'm sure no kid's drool on this is any reason to be concerned.
I almost bought one during, like, recently this past Easter during COVID and all this. I almost bought one, and it's the least. It's not hermetically sealed. Right. It's not protected whatsoever, and I almost bought one. I touched it, and then I thought, I wonder how many people have touched this, and then I just put it back. Yeah. Just lending my.
I was going to say
little,
that you're probably the 25th person to do that.
Shit. Yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully I spread some of the antibiotics.
There you go.
Or something. I don't know.
That's why you licked it.
But we're praying like hell. I mean, I did take some of this. I did lick it after removing some of the
tinfoil.
There you go. But you know how many I found in there that just had like big open patches of chocolate just hanging out, just collecting filth.
That's part of the. I don't know. It comes with the whole package, but
for sure.
But yeah, that is definitely one of those things that like. When I was a kid, I always like used to look forward to those fucking commercials every year. You know, they'd have the bunny. You know, the bark,
right, the lion.
Yeah. Good times.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah.
You know, now I think it's just like watching YouTubers microwave Peeps, and I spent $3 million on Peeps because I thought it would be funny, and I'm diving into them in my pool. That I live in Beverly Hills, and I'm like, meanwhile, we're, you know what I mean, just trying to survive. You know what I mean, with grabbing a Cadbury egg every now and then. But you did escape. You did escape the challenge.
Thank God. I don't think I could. Side note, I think it's smart that Peeps pivoted to... You notice how, like, I personally think Peeps are the worst of the Easter candies and are pretty much inedible. So it's smart that Peeps seem to lean into the whole, like, we got to do the peep jousting thing, because, like... Or what is it, like, you know, the Peep dioramas thing? That's like a big thing every year where I forgot what it is. I think it's like one of the Washington magazines, like... You make a Peep diorama out of, like, you know, like somebody did a Sully Sullenberg thing out of Peeps and shit. Whatever the news story of the year is. And it's so dumb, but, like, it's like promotions for Peeps, and it's like gives people a reason to keep on buying those, like, nasty ass things.
Yeah, they can't be good for you. It's just goo covered in sugar.
Yeah, it's just, like, not meant to be digested.
It's worse than a regular marshmallow.
Yeah, no, it's like fried with sugar or something like that too on top of it. But anyways, I digress.
Anyway, so because we had talked about this. We had talked. We've been. There's no movies. I don't know if you guys know this, but like you can't go to the movie theater. There's no movies. Yeah. So it's created several problems.
Yes, we're still in the middle of the great desert that has become our movie catalog for 2020.
No, it's great watching the only things, some of the only things I even live for anymore, just being pushed back further and further, like a goddamn donkey chasing a carrot. You know what I mean? Pulling a cart behind it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, it's like every week you keep on waiting to hear. Oh, wait, they gonna release Tenet? Nope. Pushing it back another 2 weeks. Surprise.
Yep. Is Tenet happening?
Yep.
Nope. Oh, nope.
Shocker.
Yep. This is how powerful Christopher Nolan is. And then 2 days later, they're going to go kick that can down the road a little bit too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Los Angeles County, I think they're not even letting, because I live in Orange County, but Los Angeles County is, 20 minutes from me or something, and they're not even reopening the theaters
Yeah.
because of ventilation.
Yes,
concerns or
like
something.
that's the main thing I heard is people concerned about that.
I mean, what I would be concerned about is laying in recliners with the same people who come to the movie theaters with pillows and blankets and bare feet. That should be stopped. Stop that. Have them not be able to do that, and then we'll talk about ventilation, and shit like that. But yeah, dude, I don't know. I mean, I just it's kind of wild to watch these movies. Just it's like the parasitic reciprocal relationship of the movie theater chains relying on films and
Right.
films relying on theaters, and just both of them seemingly just going out of business together. You know what I mean? It's like, well, where do you?
It's just funny because I feel like it's one of those things where it's like, let's see who your true friends really are when the chips are like I liked, even though it's like really old news by now, like when the whole Trolls World Tour thing started, like I like how I forgot which theater chain it was, maybe it was AMC, but like they were really slighted that Trolls immediately got dropped on VOD, so they were like, you know what, we're not going to release any Universal Pictures, including
Right.
Fast and Furious 9 and Lost World 3 and all this other shit. And I was like, okay, I get the front and the you're trying to like act big, but I feel like that's also a poor business decision on their part. Like they're unfortunately all the movie theaters are in such a shitty bargaining position. Like I do agree that both them and the studios kind of have a symbiotic relationship, but I'm wondering how quickly they're gonna turn their backs and like kind of pivot more towards streaming. I really do feel like it's going to be like, people have been saying for years, but like, I'm Mr. Doom and Gloom, but I feel like it's going to be like 90% Disney and or like Amazon owned companies. And then you'll have like little theater chains surviving. I keep on hoping that Alamo will be able to pull through this and other things like.
I think if anyone can survive, it's Alamo, just because they do it better and different than most places. Like, I think there's no real. What's wild has been like the last 10 years of watching the loyalty programs emerge for the theater chains. Like, assuming people even care about theater chains. They don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, do you remember like how we would go to the movies? Like, what's playing where? We don't care.
Yeah, exactly. There's no.
Like, because we're just paying with credit card or cash or whatever. Like, whatever's convenient for us. That's where we went.
And it's like it's easier to make oh shit, it's playing at the crappy movie theater, but I can get tickets. It's not like, loyalty is rarely comes into play when you're making those decisions, except for Alamo. I feel like Alamo's the only one.
Except for Alamo, they're the only ones that I was just consistently like. I would prefer to go to Alamo Drafthouse to see almost anything. Really.
But the fact that they play older movies, and like it's kind of like, once again, more of the experiential thing. Like they were one of the first guys to really do that. Like eat and drink,
the dine in and the drinks,
and they do it
stuff.
better. And it's got a vibe to it, and you make a night out of it.
I never felt horrible. Like, oh, we just spent $50, not including the cost. Because. It's a weird thing. It's like, you feel like it's more of an experience than just the standard popcorn and soda and Raisinets and Junior Mints.
Yeah,
and shit,
yeah.
So. Well, what are you watching?
Yeah.
What are
Well,
you seeing on,
there's still a lot of stuff on VOD lately, and I've kind of.
You tell me, bro. I'm watching Band of Brothers and South Park.
Well, I kind of like, it's been the first.
No, are you actually watching them on demand, or are you sailing the
No,
seas?
I'm actually like renting them and shit.
Oh my God.
I felt
You're actually exching currency.
well because I got some of that sweet government relief money, and I felt like I actually wanted to pay it forward.
You want to stimulate the economy?
Yeah, it felt nice to kind of have a clean slate, and I also like, I've been busy lately, so I feel like in the last couple of weeks
you can't be bothered to be shopping around looking for the best torrents and stuff. You know what I mean? You're just your time is money.
Well, no, it's just like I had all these like things I wanted to catch up on, and it's like I don't know. I just felt like I kind of was behind the I had a list of things that I wanted to see, and I'm still kind of going through them. But let me see. The few I've watched in like, I think the last week or two. One was Vivarium, which was that It was like this weird kind of indie movie with Jesse Eisenberg and Imogen Poots, who's she was the chick, the girl from 28 Weeks Later, and she's gone on to be in a bunch of things. She was the female lead in Green Room. She was like the Nazi
Yes.
chick or whatever, and she's actually a really
Yeah.
great actress. I like her projects a lot. And it was
I saw the trailer for this, but yeah, keep like this. This was a weird. This seems like a very Volpe.
yeah, exactly.
You know what I
Like that's the thing is, it seemed weird. It seemed like a cool like Twilight Zone episode kind of premise, and it's interesting. Like it's got enough going on to keep me interested, but like especially towards the end, it kind of felt like this would be a lot tighter as a like shorter episode of something. Like I usually prefer the movie format, but this was one of the times that I kind of like thought like it was running out of things to say and do as it went on. But it's weird enough. Like it's not a rental, but it's a catch it when it comes to HBO Max kind of thing. And it's like one of those things where it's like you kind of get where it's going. So if you were to like click around, you probably wouldn't miss too much. There's some interesting things to it, and I kind of like the look of it because it's supposed to be set in this like suburbia that's like so next level, like perfect picturesque looking that it's just like clearly not real, and like the clouds in the sky look like the fucking clouds from Toy Story.
So can you for anyone listening, can you kind of give a brief rundown where they get invited to come look at a house?
They're
Is that
basically like this young couple, and they're looking at a house, and they go to like a strange realtor's office, and the realtor says, "Oh hey, I'll show you this like new planned community we have." And it's one of those deals where as you enter the planned community, it has a big sign that I forgot the name of the company, but it's like "Stay here forever," and so he leads them into this planned community. There's nobody around. Every house looks exactly the same. It's like kind of this endless cul-de-sac.
It's like Beetlejuice or no Edward
Yeah.
Scissorhands, kind of that like classic '50s style suburbia.
Yeah, and it's like all the colors, like the color correction or color grading is like turned all the way up to the max, so all the greens are super green and all the grass looks really fake. And so then the realtor disappears, and the couple are kind of stuck there, and like they try to leave and realize that they can't, and they drive their car around until it runs out of gas, and they're still in front of the house that they were shown earlier. And they get delivered packages from unseen people to just with like food and supplies, and then it starts going in a weirder direction that I don't want to spoil. And so once it kind of adds this extra twist to it, it's very interesting, and I like that it doesn't really come like there is a cause to it, but it doesn't go super deep into the explanation of the cause. So I like that aspect of it. I thought as leads, both of them are pretty good. Jesse Eisenberg's a little miscast, but it's vaguely entertaining. I kind of felt like I was falling asleep a little bit towards the end, and I like the way it's shot. There's some interesting concepts, but it's still not like fantastic. It's kind of like an interesting like distraction. But watch it when it comes out on HBO Max or something where you're not paying for it.
Yeah, because I'm tempted to reveal the twist because it's in the trailer. So I'm like, I don't know, but it's to me the premise that you've laid out to me is it's pretty like flimsy.
Yeah.
But to me, it didn't get interesting enough for me to dig into it until that weird twist where I'll go ahead. It's in the trailer, people. So I don't know. Don't get pissed at me. But basically, they drop off a child, right? A small child, and they're like, raise the child and earn your freedom. Is that kind of the arrangement?
Yeah.
And the child is a monster?
Yeah, basically, like, what it is like, the child arrives in one of the boxes, and they basically are HelloFresh boxes, so it's like, like, the food keeps on arriving, and then one day they open the box, and all it says on the inside is there's, like, a little label that says, like, raise this child and get your freedom, or something like that, and then it suddenly cuts to, like, I don't know, like, 3 months later, and, like, the baby is suddenly, like, 12 years old or something, and he looks like Alfalfa from the Little Rascals. But the one thing they do with it that's really weird is when the child is like 12, he's British, and he talks like he's a weird child because he's like, there's another spoiler, but like there's something off about the child. And but what they do to kind of up the creep factor is they dub over the child's voice with somebody doing an impersonation of a child, and I think they like mess with the levels, so it's like there's this weird disconnect between the child that you see talking and the sound or whatever, and the parents clearly hate this child too because like they don't want to raise it, and they kind of do it begrudgingly, and the mom keeps on like the child keeps on calling the female mom, and she says, "I'm not your fucking mother," all the time, and so that's some really interesting stuff, and that's kind of like the third aspect of the movie, like the kid ends up being a big part of the movie as it goes on. Do you want me to spoil the rest of it, or is it?
No. I think that's it.
It has more places to go.
People trapped in some sort of suburbia. What is that? But then the whole like, you're basically going to raise, and it's not made clear, and I do not know. But the assumption would be like, aliens have trapped you, and they are going to make you basically raise some sort of clone alien because they think that you're going to be able to imprint it the best, or it's going to learn from you the best, and then it will go do something nefarious because it learned how to act like a human because of you, and that's how you're being used. That's what I got from watching the trailer.
Well, Dave,
and so I have no idea if that's actually how it works.
I'm not going to say you're right, but I would say that's a good educated guess, and I would say that.
But that is interesting.
So
I don't think just being trapped in suburbia and like, where are we? We keep making the same turns. Like, that's not really scary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird and, but like, that second layer is what really like intrigued.
Yeah.
Me,
I would say if I had a complaint with the movie is I feel like it doesn't go far enough beyond the introduction of that. I feel like it kind of doesn't know. It kind of knows what it wants to do after it introduces this kid aspect, and the kid aspect is like I think when the movie got a little bit more interesting for me, and the kid is like super annoying. Like they have this gimmick where when the kid wants the parents to do things, he just starts screaming, and it's like a sustained high pitch. It's like a tea kettle.
Yeah, that's also in the trailer. So that is to immediately let you know that this is not just a normal.
But
so that was very disconcerting.
But yeah, the one thing is like there's too many scenes that are just like, okay, like the kid's kind of annoying, and what are we gonna do with the kid, and what's really happening, and you kind of know where it's going, so you kind of wish it would get to that point a little faster. But it adds the kid stuff kind of is where most of the creep factor comes from it, and it's interesting. Like I would say it almost functions better as the type of movie that you're literally like watching on one channel, and then when you get bored every 5 minutes you click around for a little bit, and because like things don't change a ton, so you can probably get back and kind of know what's going on, and it's there's interesting stuff in it, but never quite does enough to like fully justify the story, I think. Same thing.
Yeah. Did it have? No,
I was gonna say same thing. If it was like a 1 hour whatever, it would have been a lot better. But it just like kind of got stretched out to fill a 2 hour runtime.
Did it have like under the skin kind of vibes where it's like an alien impersonating a person, anything that? It didn't have the same feel.
It is. Without giving away too much, there are aliens impersonating people kind of things, but it's not like that. Under the skin is such a different tone. You know what I mean? Like just in terms of just unsettlingness. Like there's nothing like that. Yeah. There's like some parts that are meant to be kind of unsettling, and I guess they kind of are, but it's not like super effective. It's a little bit creepy and like a little bit quirky, which is kind of nice, but it never really reaches like far enough in either direction. Quite for me, but it's still enjoyable enough. Like it's the sort of movie that I'm like, I almost like have a more special place in my heart for little movies that are weird ideas that are probably not totally successful, but I kind of like give the creators props for trying or something like that. So yeah, it's, like I said, worth a watch if it's like $1 on Amazon or if it's streaming somewhere, but probably not otherwise. But there is another movie on Amazon that is streaming for $1 that I watched that was actually great, called The Assistant, and it's basically about a girl who it's kind of done. Apparently the filmmaker is a documentarian, and this is her first fictional film, but like it's shot kind of like not quite like a documentary per se, but a shot in a way like the whole vibe of the film is supposed to be like really naturalistic, and it's just about a girl who's like young in her 20s, like probably fresh out of college, who's got this a job as like a production assistant in a New York film office, and like basically they never come out and say it, but she's essentially like the guy she's working for is basically Harvey Weinstein, and it's like very clearly like closely based on his character. And the interesting thing is they never show the producer, but her whole day is just about her scheduling his dates and like trying to get all these models to kind of do interviews with him, and it's all about like it's all like purposely mundane but in an interesting way, and like the ways that they hint at like the kind of shady shit that this guy is doing, that she basically the first thing she does when she gets in the office in the morning is she has to wipe down the couch in his office for some reason, and she's got like the rubber gloves and she's got the sponge and everything like that, and then and it's like really subtle stuff, like then she'll go over and wipe down his desk, and you see just the little bit of remnants of like white powder on the desk and everything, and yeah, so the movie doesn't have a ton of plot, but it is like actually pretty interesting, and yeah, same thing, just don't go expecting like a big movie like thriller or whatever, but it's very well acted and kind of like really nuanced, and it's not even like quite a thriller, it's almost like a slice of life movie, but it's really cool to see how all these people interact and like what things kind of are not, it's all what's not being said rather than what's being said, right, kind of thing.
And so I just Googled it, so because I just wanted to see what like who was in it. It looks like Julia Garner from Ozark. Yeah. She's I'm trying to remember her name, her character in Ozark. God, I'm trying to remember. I watched all 3 seasons, and I can't remember it. But like she was on The Americans. She was in like Electric Kids or Electric People. That movie. Did you ever see that?
Oh, is that the where she gets pregnant by a mixtape or something like that? Or am I totally thinking of a different...
She gets pregnant by a mixtape?
Or maybe I'm thinking of a different... There's some movie...
Is that the...
There's some movie that used to pop up on my Netflix queue, and I
think it's Electric Children is the first thing I saw her in. Electric...
Did you watch it, or was it...
Oh, yeah, no. And one of the Culkins is in it, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Electric Children...
Yeah, isn't it like...
2013.
She gets pregnant... She blames it on music for her pregnancy. She insists a voice she heard on a cassette tape actually got her pregnant. That's what the synopsis was. So
it's like an immaculate conception. Yeah, she's Mormon or something. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I never saw it, but I was like that was the one thing that stuck in my mind, and it's got a cool poster.
Yes,
or whatever.
That's what it says. She insists that a voice she heard on a cassette tape actually did the deed. Yeah, so. There you go.
Clearly, it made an impression.
That was not the takeaway. No, it did not. Yeah, it did not. I remember it being very cool, and I remember some of the music in it. And I think I have it like on my Spotify playlist or something. But yeah, I do not remember. I remembered it more of a like
as a like the feel of it or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like it's kind of fun because it's like fish out of water. Like they're very sheltered and they're kind of they run into. Is it Rory Culkin? Kieran Culkin? I can't remember which one it is, but it's and who's like just kind of like a punk kid running around, and they kind of fall in with them, and it's just kind of one of those like I don't know, kind of a classic, youth movie, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I digress.
Kind of, like Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist kind of vibe.
Yeah, right. Where you're just kind of running around and what's 7-Eleven about? You know what I mean? Just weird shit, just harkens back to the old days. You know
it's like if Michael Cera would have done this project 10 years ago, then it's firmly in that like genre or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. All right, have you been watching anything else? Else?
I got 2 more real quick. I watched the Invisible Man.
Have not seen it still.
It was like Elizabeth Moss is fucking amazing in that. Like I'm sure it's almost like goes without saying that she just knocks it out of the park in every movie that she's in these days. And it's interesting. I really liked Leigh Whannell's last movie, which was Upgrade. Like, I thought that was a cool little future thriller.
That I have seen.
Yeah, this isn't as good as that. I think. Like, I think it's a really cool take on the idea of the Invisible Man, and it works really well on a metaphorical level. And I like that it's really not about the Invisible Man. It's really about her stuck in an abusive relationship. But there are also things that I didn't like. There's some really good jump scares in it, and there's a few good action scenes, but there's a lot of like, and it might have been like I wasn't in the mood for it, but like it felt a little too slow, and like some of the stuff towards the end, it hit me. Some of the plot holes in it kind of hit me. Like usually I don't gripe about that, but there were some things that I was just like, especially towards the end, I just couldn't like fully accept kind of.
Does it follow the original kind of plot of the Invisible Man, which I don't know?
No, I think it's pretty different. The invisibility is something.
It sounds like closer to Hollow Man.
It is. It has some of the gimmicks of Hollow Man, but that's kind of one of my complaints. Because even though Hollow Man's not a great movie, as an effects movie, it's pretty impressive, especially for the time. Like the fact that they got all of the, the whole movie is basically just different excuses for them to get like Kevin Bacon. Like covered in flames or coming through smoke or jumping into water. And so they have that gimmick a little bit in it, but it's a Blumhouse movie, so they don't have, the budget's got to be like $5-10 million. So like they have a scene towards the end that pointedly takes place in a rainstorm and the characters run outside, and it doesn't do that Hollow Man gimmick where you can see the outline of the person. Like it kind of does it, but you can tell it's like much less money was put into the visual effects, and that's kind of like what I gotta hand it to Leigh Whannell is like he seems like the type of indie filmmaker who knows where to put the money into things. Like he puts, there was like clearly like 5 scenes where they dumped like probably 75% of the movie's budget into, and then everything else is like a lot of dialogue, and like they do that gimmick where it's like it's kind of like a little bit of the It Follows thing where they leave the camera on a wide shot and you see something happen in the corner, or like they'll just be, the camera will be staying on a chair in the corner of the room, and the whole time you're wondering, is the guy in the chair or is he not? And it kind of works, but it kind of like loses tension after a while, and also like the one thing is like the whole gimmick of the movie is like, basically Elizabeth Moss is supposed to be inheriting all this money, but she's also being gaslit to seem like she's going insane to everyone else, and like is responsible for all these things that she's not. But after a while, even that kind of hits the point of incredulity a little bit too, and also the tension kind of goes out because like she's not crazy from the beginning. It's not like it kind of keeps on playing it like, oh, is she crazy or is she not? But she's not crazy from the beginning. Like there's certain.
What's the movie that's coming out? It's based on a book where we're not sure if the woman's crazy. I think it's with what's her name, the redhead from Everything.
Nicole Kidman.
No.
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams. Yeah. Amy Adams is kind of like a shut-in or something, and she's and that's the whole thing. Is she crazy?
It sounds like the last 5 Amy Adams projects. She's been doing a lot of those like Gone Girl author things. Like, what are those things?
Well, that's what it is. Yeah, I think that's literally. I want to say it's like her next book.
Yeah. Okay, I think I know which one you're talking about.
Let's see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah, that's like a show, I think, or something. But yeah, start going.
No, I'm. The Woman in the Window.
Oh yeah. But that sounds exactly like the last 5 projects that she's done. Like it's a good pocket to be in because like there's like kind of steamy thrillers are kind of in vogue now or whatever. But I watched that. Like I said, I think it was good. I thought it felt like there's some good moments in it, and Elizabeth Moss is fucking amazing, and there's cool moments, but like I would kind of file it in the Vivarium, like wait till it comes out in HBO kind of thing. Like I thought it was good, but like not quite what I was fully looking for. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it that night. And speaking of Kevin Bacon, the last movie I watched, which I actually
Tremors.
No, he's got a new movie out, so this was the first time I tried doing the super expensive fucking $20 same day as theaters rental thing.
You rented a movie for
Like I was
$20?
like, I'm
I wouldn't rent a Star
I
Wars
know.
film for $20.
And the movie I rented was definitely not worth $20. So,
If you have Mr. Andrew Volpe's contact information, ask him to. It's time to borrow money because he obviously has money to burn.
Nah.
He's throwing money in the trash. He's lighting it on fire, and he's dancing in front, mocking the rest of us. And this poor economy as it struggles to regain.
Literally for this podcast.
And he's throwing money.
Man.
He's
That
throwing money
government
around.
man.
It's time. I hope you have a birthday. I hope you're within driving distance of Mr. Andrew Volpe. It's your birthday because he's taking you out for a steak dinner that you're going to have to pick up curbside. Make sure you wear your face mask because he's throwing money around. He's spending $20 on rentals for Kevin Bacon straight to video.
It's not straight to video. This was supposed to come out in theaters.
Can I manage the rest of your assets?
No. This was my This was my bottoming out. I was like, okay, yeah, this is like I'm done. I had my fun, but I can't go blowing my money on dumb shit like this. But yeah. So the movie was what the fuck is it called? You Should Have Left. Did you see the trailers for that?
I'm just vaguely aware of almost everything, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure but you know, it's like, oh, didn't you already make this movie a few years ago where like you live in a house and like there's like like handprints all over your house or something, and it's like Native American curse or something? Well, didn't you already make this movie?
Yeah, it's not quite that, but it's definitely close. And like honestly, so the thing that kind of like made me interested in the first place is the movie is written directed by David Koepp, who is this guy who's like this, you know, one of the most like he did all the blockbusters, like did the script for them in the 90s, and for better or for worse, like he worked with Spielberg a lot through the 90s, so he did the script for Jurassic Park, but he did it with Michael Crichton, so he kind of got balanced out there. And I think he wrote Minority Report, so like I think when he's reined in, he's actually decent. But then he's written other just total turds, like he wrote The Lost World, and he wrote like most famously, like, or not most famously, like he did a couple of movies on his own. So one of the ones that he did, I think in the late 90s, was Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon, which was actually a pretty decent movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I do remember that being a kind of nice under the radar kind of horror movie. And but then his follow-up to that was fucking Secret Window with Johnny Depp, which I think is a horrible movie. So I was kind of like wondering what this was going to be like, especially since he hasn't been working as much in the last decade, and you know, him reteaming with Kevin Bacon, both of them are
is ticking all my boxes. Hasn't worked in 10 years. Kevin Bacon, straight to video.
I mean, yeah.
Yes, here's my money.
Man. And well, you know, the thing that really actually made me want to see it, the thing that truly did was so in the trailer they make a point out of like, it's a haunted house movie, but like one of the first things you see is Kevin Bacon's like measuring the inside of the house, and then he measures the outside of the house, and he realizes that the inside of the house is like 4 or 5 feet longer than the outside of the house, which is a thing that's like directly from this book I read called House of Leaves, which is a kind of like interesting though like completely unadaptable book that's about a haunted house, and it kind of like predicted the found footage movie a little bit, because it's the way it's written is like it's written like it's kind of crazy the way it's written, because it's like got footnotes. It's supposed to be written by a crazy person, so they do weird things with like notes in the margins and little hidden symbols, and but most of the movies most of the book is supposed to be like transcripts from a video that you never see. And so I was wondering if they kind of tried to like that I was wondering if this movie was going to be an adaptation, like an attempt to kind of cherry pick elements of, you know, House of Leaves and put them into a movie. And it looks like they're kind of doing that, but it really it's its own thing.
So they stole the intriguing elements from something that's good, but then they still.
Well, that's the thing is, like, I would have liked it more if they took more elements from House of Leaves, but I think it really is just kind of like the guy came up with a haunted house movie and he had a few things. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe you never read House of Leaves or whatever. But yeah, the movie itself, it's not terrible. It actually got some good stuff in it. But as far as the machinations of the horror plot or whatever, I didn't really find any of that stuff particularly intriguing. Like the whole like haunted house story itself is pretty vague, and like a lot of the a lot of the emotions you're supposed to go through with horror movies like that, like, oh, you got to talk to the creepy shopkeeper in the village that's got to explain to you what's wrong with the house. It feels like it's on autopilot with some of those scenes, and there are other ones that are like okay. Like it's interesting because it's like clearly written by a guy who's a little older because it stars. It's basically about Kevin Bacon being a rich guy who's married a hot young wife and is kind of like bored, and everyone hates him because apparently his previous wife died under suspicious circumstances and he got blamed for a lot of it and maintains his innocence, but like the trial was public so everyone knows his name and shit, and he's basically like he's married to super hot super young Amanda Seyfried and they have a kid together, and yeah, so the relationship between the two of them is actually pretty good. Like, it's interesting because it's different than a lot of other horror movies. Like, usually it's like kind of more like the Jack Torrance thing where it's like the main character is a psychopath and like he's already kind of a piece of shit before going into the haunted house, and the haunted house kind of just exacerbates what's already there. And this movie, like, is most of the movie is the two of them like trying to calmly work things out in a good relationship, and like they're not necessarily in a good relationship, but the way people react to certain revelations are done in a more like a less dramatic way than you would expect in a lot of Hollywood movies, and I actually kind of like that, and I kind of liked some of the banter that Amanda Seyfried and Kevin Bacon have, so that stuff's kind of interesting, but then the actual horror stuff is for the most part pretty boring. There's like maybe like a handful of like moderately interesting things, but even the haunted house is pretty boring. Like, it's like brick interior, which I think they did so they do a lot of gags where hallways extend and like you close it.
Did the bricks start breathing?
No,
like
I would have liked it more if they did. I think it's just more like a repeating pattern that can like disorient you, but it's really unpleasing to the eye and it gets kind of boring to look at. And it's funny because they even have a line when they walk in where they're like, oh, what a beautiful house, and it's like no one would ever think this house looks awful, and it's weird because it's brick on the inside, so I'm just like, does that house have any insulation? Like, you're in Scotland, like the house is supposed to be in Scotland, so I imagine it's cold out there. But yeah, it's kind of predictable. It kind of goes through. If you ever saw that Netflix movie that was out recently, the in the tall grass, it kind of has a lot of the similar sort of gags where it's like time looping and all sorts of stuff like that, and it's you can kind of see a lot of it coming from a mile away, and a lot of that's kind of where I started to lose interest in the movie, but it's not terrible, and it's nice to see he kept doing stuff again, so I hope maybe he can get back in the saddle, and I think he tends to work better when he's got a good director or other good writers to kind of rein him in, so.
Yeah, when is he gonna get like a True Detective season or something? You know what I mean? Like really sink his teeth into it. Get that Bacon back.
Oh, you're talking about Bacon? I don't know, man. He just got cast as something big that I totally can't remember at the moment. Oh, somebody was saying something about him maybe being the new Freddy Krueger, or was that just a rumor?
Wouldn't be too bad. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Bacon, he's got this creepiness kind of about him, but it's kind of like. He's either got to be like a high school football coach or like just like a serial killer.
Yeah, he's always either got to be like the like supporting character, like the cop that's like a fucking side character, or crazy person. Like I feel like he's got a little bit of sociopath in him, and something about his face too is weird. It's the nose is so creepy. It's kind of like.
Yeah, I feel like we'll lose him. He'll get like an original. Western type show produced by Kevin Costner on Paramount Network, where he's like a rancher by day,
and then he solves
and then
crime
like a vigilante
or
some stupid shit like that. So another one wasted. You know what I mean? Sorry, Bacon. But what were we talking about? Spielberg. Oh well, speaking of Spielberg, Mr. Andrew Volpe went and finally saw a little Spielberg gym. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of this. It's E.T. the Extraterrestrial.
Yep. The little movie that could about
now, because there are no films as we've discussed previously in the last 10 minutes, but So what we're kind of doing is we're doing this thing where we're all unabashedly kind of going back, watching movies that by all mean like there's no excuse not to see these films, but I haven't seen several great films. Ash hasn't seen most great films. Mr. Andrew Volpe hasn't seen. He's all over the place. You know what I mean? I have things that he hasn't seen. Nick is going to jump into it at some point. I think he's going to do. I want to say he's going to do He Got Game.
Oh, cool.
So because that's just a classic film that he has not seen, and he's going to do that. So I think he's working on that. But for you today, we're gonna each do one. But Mr. Andrew Volpe, we're gonna go ahead and give you the honor, man, of going first. But E.T. the Extraterrestrial, you saw it for the first time at age 32,
33. Yeah.
There we
and
go.
that was kind of an interesting part of it because like when I started the movie, I actually tried to write a few notes to kind of go along with this, but one of the first ones I put down was the first 5-10 minutes into it, like I could tell the movie was like working, like you admire it on a technical level, but I think I wrote like you kind of feel a little bit of sadness whenever you're catching up on a childhood classic so late in life because you'll never like have that childhood imagination with it. Like you're just gonna kind of see the seams, and even though you can really appreciate a lot of the quote unquote magic that you see and kind of understand where it's coming from, you're never gonna like believe in it like you would when you're like 6 years old or whatever.
For sure. One quick, did you see the original version where it looks like a shit puppet running around, or did you see the remastered 2002 re-release or something that looks like fucking episode
1,
episode
2,
1. It looks like it looks horrible. So it's like, just which one did you see? Did you see the one that looked like it belongs in Clone Wars, or did you see the one that Spielberg actually made, like 1983 or whatever that was?
Well, I saw whatever one was available on Netflix, but I was wondering the same thing, so I looked it up about halfway through, and apparently it is the original one. And I think the signifier with it was the cops actually have guns in the, because that was the main thing Spielberg wanted to remove was replacing the guns with walkie-talkies, as South Park so pointedly made fun of many years ago. But yeah, like, and I liked it, but that's the way I wanted to see it too, because like,
oh dude,
of course. It's the same thing with like Star Wars. Like if you're going to see it, you want to see it in the original kind of, gritty, like I feel like I have a little bit more respect just because especially with a movie like E.T., like I feel like making creepy monsters is one thing and kind of an art to itself, but it's even harder to make something that's like supposed to make you feel emotionally attached to it as the movie goes on. And that's really the brilliance, I think, of the movie, is how Spielberg did it, especially using a lot of tricks that he used in, like, say, Jaws and other things, where you kind of he knows just how much to show of the effects to sell the idea, but then he uses all these other things to kind of like sell the reality of it to you. So all the people around the effect are like totally naturalistic. Like, for as beautiful as all of this movie is shot, and the lighting is amazing, and the cinematography is amazing.
That John Williams score, man.
The John Williams
so
score
good.
is doing so much legwork too. Like, it just in general, like Spielberg, even though he is truly one of the greats, like how much does he owe to John Williams scores? Like that. Like, have you ever seen a Spielberg movie that doesn't have a John Williams score? It always feels weird because it feels like 50% of it is missing, because half of it is John Williams, man. I feel like. And it's not saying that Spielberg isn't great. Like, I think it's just one of those things that they pair so well together, and it is ingrained in his style for everything else. But like the half of it is the score most of the time. But the visuals are great too. I think the guy that shot this actually recently like died a few weeks ago of COVID. But yeah, his
bringing it all back.
Gotta bring it all around. But his name is.
Rest in peace.
Alan Davio, something like that, some Creole name. But he shot a few of Spielberg. I think he also shot Close Encounter. No, he shot Color Purple and Empire of the Sun. But yeah, like really, really beautiful stuff. And like, that's kind of the other thing I realized out of this is like, it's kind of like this like going back to Spielberg using other things to kind of help sell you aside from the effects. Like, this is a movie that is just like pretty much painted with fog and flashlights and just like elements around, like, you don't even see like the one of the things that I noticed the most and I thought was really cool was the fact that you don't see any adult's face except for the mom up until the last like 20-25 minutes of the movie, and it's very pointedly like until the moment when E.T. dies. That's when all of the government
spoilers.
Yeah, right. Sorry. Don't worry, kids. He does die, but
yeah,
he's our little space Jesus. Yeah, like I thought that was really cool because that really kind of and also like. I liked how you can kind of see things that Spielberg would go on later to in his work, like clearly his love for Peter Pan, and in certain sequences there's a scene where I think Dee Wallace is reading a book to one of the kids, and it's Peter Pan, and like that's when Elliot's learning to fly for the first time. And just specifically the bad guys though, like you never see any of their faces. The guy with the keys, Peter Coyote, it's such a good gimmick. Like the key thing seems a little weird at first, but it's such a good signifier, and I love that most of the adults are usually shot at waist level, so you see the keys and all that stuff, but that's the perspective you would have seen if you were a kid that age, is like all the adults tower over you and stuff. And then when E.T. dies, it's like literally like your childhood's over, and that's when the rest of the world seems to invade the movie. Like suddenly there's a ton of extras and the action scenes are bigger and it's scary and all this other shit. But it's interesting though, because like I when I was starting out in the movie, I was kind of wondering if it was like, I was really liking it on a technical level, but I was wondering if it was like so dated to the point where like I wasn't feeling the emotions as much, especially. But that's until you saw E.T.'s face, and when you see his face, like that's one of those things where you realize how much the big eyes and everything like that, and E.T. like especially for back then was like really a mechanical marvel. Like they shot it just right so you could get enough juice out of the emotional moments that you needed, but it really needed to like be able to believe that was a face that was like smiling and winking and making weird faces at you for those brief seconds of time, that really would sell it. And another thing I noticed that I thought was really interesting was and I literally had to like stop the movie and go through frame by frame for this, but I think one of the big things that they did to sell some of those emotional scenes was they definitely like, because there's times when E.T.'s blinking slowly, that's clearly like one of those like Jim Henson animatronic kind of things, but like especially for wide shots, like if they're trying to have E.T. like blink, like I think that's one of the bigger signifiers of a real thing. I think they literally just painted in him closing his eyes over like one or two frames every once in a while, and that did so much work for them trying to make you believe those certain scenes or whatever. And just the fact that they had that attention to detail and everything was amazing. But all in all, it was amazing. The whole time I was watching it, I couldn't help but think of Poltergeist, which is one of my favorite Spielberg movies, and apparently was going on at the same time as this. And apparently, Spielberg, it is definitely clearly a Steven Spielberg movie, even though Tobe Hooper ostensibly directed it. And the rumor basically was that Spielberg directed Poltergeist for him because he could see that Tobe Hooper didn't know what he was doing, but Spielberg had to keep Tobe Hooper's name on it because it violated DGA rules to direct 2 movies in a year, and the other movie he was directing at that time was E.T. So there's a lot of things,
and it was 2 different studios too, right? Like which one wasn't one at, because E.T. went to Universal because Columbia didn't want to make it, they sent it to Universal, and then Poltergeist was still being made by someone. What studio made? I'm trying to remember. But that was the whole thing where the rumors were that he was kind of bouncing back and forth, right? Aren't there pictures of him like on both sets or something? I mean, like running around?
It definitely feels like if he didn't. It's MGM that did Poltergeist. So 2 different.
Yeah,
studios.
MGM. There you go.
But I mean that totally makes sense. Like I feel like he might have hit up like, I don't know if there's the same, like there's like moments in E.T. that I noticed where like E.T. makes like objects levitate, and it felt very similar to there's the one gag in Poltergeist where they look in the little girl's room and all the objects are like the records and toys and shit are all levitating, and it all look like the same kind of like blue screeny 1980s kind of era effects or whatever. But yeah, and it just like, the other crossover is like, it feels like it's very similar setting, very similar type of families. Like, the thing I liked about it, once again, I think for a movie like this to work, you really have to get invested in the characters. And I think the way Spielberg sets both the families up in Poltergeist and this are like, they kind of like, he kind of throws you into this family. So like, there's a lot of crosstalk and not a lot of exposition. Like, you kind of have to figure out who these characters are and like what their dynamic is as events unfold, but you like them. Like I think that's like really important, that you like all the characters that you see and you care about them. And yeah, I think that's really the magic of this movie too, is like, like I was liking the movie a lot for the first and second third of it, but I really think the thing that makes like where he lands it and turns it into a masterpiece is that last third where things get scary and E.T. starts dying. Like, I think they can get a little bit more juice out of the effects then, because I think the E.T. doll is much easier to look creepy and scary.
Oh, dude. It haunts my nightmares.
Yeah,
what I mean?
like when he's all
when he's all
like that.
Gray and they find him in a ditch and shit.
Oh yeah, when he finds him in the ditch and there's like a little raccoon next to him and he's like, he literally looks like a fucking Twin Peaks corpse or something like that. Like,
ooh.
Yeah.
I E.T. is always just so interesting to me because they basically, like, Spielberg got like 3 movies out of E.T. basically. You know what I mean? Where the whole like. He wanted to make...
it's like a Peter Pan movie, a scary movie.
Well,
and,
yeah, like, I think he came up with a few broad strokes, and then he was just like, between the studios and things, because I'm trying to remember what studio wanted him to do. One of the studios wanted him to do Close Encounters 2. He was like, I don't want to make that, so I'll make something different. He's like, I have this kind of a horror, spooky thing going on. Where he was writing like a kids movie. He wanted to write like a movie about, basically imagine Elliot's whole story, kind of, with a small family with like 2 siblings, just minus the aliens.
Yeah.
So he wanted to make that, and then he basically took that concept, kind of kept that. Wanted to do something with aliens terrifying a family, and he goes, okay, I'm gonna lose that, and then we'll make that into Poltergeist. So that basic concept moved over to Poltergeist, and then he was like, well, I still want like weird little creatures that bother people and like ruin and wreak havoc, and that became Gremlins.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
So like there's all these weird things where he had some ideas, and I'm trying to remember. I think the screenwriter for E.T. was Harrison Ford's girlfriend/wife.
Oh wow!
Because she came to the set of
Star Wars or something, or Indiana Jones.
No, I think Raiders.
Yeah.
Raiders. She was just coming to hang out with Harrison Ford, and they started talking, and she's like, "Hey, I've got this idea. Like, write the screenplay."
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it all evolved, but. He had all these weird ideas that didn't really make sense together, and then he just split them off into different things to satisfy different studios who wanted different things. And like Columbia didn't want E.T. because they didn't think it would be commercially successful. They didn't think it would be edgy and scary enough to get adults to go to it. And then meanwhile, it made like $800 million.
I mean, this has got to be the craziest period of Spielberg's career ever, because he has all that shit going on. And I think some of his best movies have come out kind of like, this is like my kind of favorite period of special effects, like that kind of mid 80s pocket where it's organic, but like they really still had to be inventive, but the technology was getting really good. It's just but then Spielberg, for instance, like, he's on top of the world. He kind of had that thing where he came on the scene, like exploded on the scene with Jaws, and then he had 1941, which was his big comeuppance, and so this was him. I feel like this these years are him kind of try to maintain his artistic voice despite all the commercial success. So movies like Close Encounters, and especially this, like this, I think, this is like clearly the thesis statement for all of his future works. And like, I feel like this is his response of being like, I'm going to find a way to marry art and commerce and make something that is more art than commerce, but still incredibly commercially successful. But then so like he's got all that shit going on. But like remember he I've been watching and reading up on that Twilight Zone movie Disaster 2, and that's only like 1 year after this, or maybe the same year, I think. So you know what I'm talking about with that?
Yeah, with the helicopter accident.
Yeah, and granted, he didn't, he wasn't on set or in any way really actually responsible for that, but it was like a horrible, like it's literally like one of the worst film disasters ever recorded. And like I was reading up more on it recently, and there's like more fucked up things about it. Like I didn't realize apparently, the whole thing was they were filming a scene for the Twilight Zone movie, and there's a part where a actor has 2 children, and it's supposed to be like their flashback to the Vietnam War, and a helicopter is supposed to be shooting at them, and when they were filming it, an explosion went off too close to the helicopter. The helicopter in real life crashed and crushed all 3 actors. But so the 2 children actors, it was like one of those things where it was the 80s, so I guess you could get away with it then, but they literally found those kids on the street. Like they were like, had talent scouts like out on the boulevard.
Were they Vietnamese?
Yeah,
children?
yeah. They were supposed to be like.
They were supposed. There was that's what.
Yeah, like the whole gimmick of the episode was about a racist guy who gets flashback to different times where people were getting persecuted. So like he was basically like put in the shoes of a Jew during World War II, and like Vietnamese during the Vietnam War, and things like that. And so he would interact with people that he used to have prejudices against. And so that was supposed to be the big finish, as he turns a new leaf and like tries to save these kids, but instead this horrible event happened, and it killed the actor in it, Vic Morrow, who was a big actor in the 60s. But yeah, so apparently the kids, like literally it was like they're not actors, like they just, Spielberg or whoever, I guess it was Landis and everyone sent out talent scouts so they wouldn't have to worry about union rules, I think, because they had to shoot late at night, and the parents were watching as their kids were killed the whole time. Like, it just, the more facts I find out about it, the more horrible it is. And the thing is, like, Spielberg and Landis had to go to court, like, for weeks and weeks, and, like, they kept on replaying the footage of, like, everything was caught on camera. Like, you can find this shit on YouTube and everything like that. So they had to watch that shit over and over and over again around that time. And so yeah, that's all happening at the same time that he's doing that, and he's breaking DGA rules, filming Poltergeist at another studio while filming this heartwarming movie, and like somehow both movies are masterpieces. And it's just crazy, man. I don't know how he did it.
What's more crazy to me is that Columbia went on to pass on Back to the Future as well.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
my God.
just no, Steve. We just, Zemeckis directed, but Steve like produced it, right?
Oh yeah,
and Spielberg, yeah. So like,
Zemeckis
I mean, just what are you doing
or whatever? Yeah, like
yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was back in the day. Like if you were seeing this, you were probably like, Vegas odds, this guy's got to go bust at some point, and he kept on hidden for so long. And it was crazy too. I was talking to, I had like an old neighbor that like lived next door to me, and she's like, your stereotypical like kind of old lady that's in her like late 80s or whatever, like super grandma-ish. But we were talking about Steven Spielberg at some point, and she was like, oh, that horrible Mr. Spielberg, how can he sleep at night or something? And it's just such a funny concept to me. Like, at some point, there was a point when Spielberg was like kind of the edgy director that nobody remembers. You know what I mean? Like he kind of pushed the genre, and like, yeah, especially this period, I feel like, E.T. has some dark stuff in it, and especially Poltergeist. Like, that's one of the reasons why I like Poltergeist, is it feels like Spielberg with the kind of the, it still has a lot of the heart and everything like that, but it feels a little edgier. I think because he knew his name wasn't specifically on it, he could get more fucked up with it, and it feels also too artful to be Tobe Hooper the entire time. So yeah, it's just it's interesting to kind of see a filmmaker, especially one who everyone has known their entire lives, like kind of you appreciate them for their different periods. And yeah, man, this is just hot take, but this is a masterpiece.
What was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene, I really liked the car chase with the tube thing sticking out the back. I thought that the tube part itself was incredibly inventive. I really like, it's really weird, but I just liked all of the shots before they revealed the adults chasing E.T. Like anytime they cut back to them, I just really loved it because the fact that all of the bad guys are faceless and how just surreal that was, and how it's kind of like abstract expressionism. He gets so much effect out of all these scenes, especially when like the guys in the spacesuits are coming in the house. It's like you're getting your effect from somebody shining a flashlight in the darkness or something like that, and that's all. But it's so much scarier than so many other things, and it's an interesting inversion. Like the humans are the scary thing, not aliens coming through the window like in Close Encounters or whatever. Yeah, you know what? It was honestly a bunch of little moments. There's one moment that, like, I wasn't aware of, like, one aspect of the movie I wasn't aware of. Like, you kind of feel like a movie that's as ubiquitous as E.T. because you see it referenced and everything like that, but I didn't realize, like, Elliot had a psychic connection to E.T., and I thought that was a really interesting aspect. So there's, like, the scene where Elliot... What's it, like E.T. gets drunk and Elliot starts getting drunk?
I was gonna if I was gonna reach across the country and slap you if you don't start talking about how E.T. getting drunk. That's everything.
Yeah,
to me.
It was like what? But it was interesting.
That was apparently a Spielberg thing that he insisted on putting into the screenplay. That was not an original moment from Harrison Ford's wife. Well, Spielberg was like, hey, throw in E.T. getting drunk in there somehow.
I mean, that makes sense, though, because it feels like most of Spielberg's storytelling elements come from visuals, and that's one of the things I like. So that whole sequence where he's getting drunk and then E.T.'s watching the movie, like the musical, and Elliot starts reenacting the musical, and it's all cross-cutting and everything. Like, almost all that's told mostly with visuals, and there's a lot of, like... my favorite shot in that sequence is there's the part at the end where it's after Elliot kisses the girl and he's getting led away by the principal or whoever. So it's like a shot of Elliot getting led away with the principal's arm around him in the distance, and the girl he just kissed is like she's doing that thing that like they do in 50s movies where she's standing in front of the camera and you just see her feet, but she kind of like twists her right foot inward a little bit, like she's like smitten with him, and then you see a bunch of like all the frogs that escape from class suddenly run across the frame and everything, and it's like that one shot kind of sums up so much in literally like 3 seconds, and it's beautiful. But I would say, yeah, it's probably indulgent. So maybe if when the movie came out originally, if it was the first time I was seeing it without all the fanfare, I'd be like, that scene was a little weird and unnecessary. But honestly, I kind of like cherish scenes like that because you would never get away with it these days. So it's like it's almost like watching Bad News Bears. Like, you get a little bit of extra juice out of it, like by knowing they would never be able to make this shit today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder, how do you direct a child to be drunk? You know what I mean? Like, just show them a lot of footage.
Yeah,
and stuff?
I feel like kids grow up. That's something that happens in Looney Tunes a lot and shit. And I feel like that was a gimmick in cartoons.
Yeah, they fall into a barrel of ale or beer, and then not Itchy and Scratchy, Tom and Jerry are
hiccuping,
drunk or something,
little
stumbling around
and
stuff.
Yeah. But I definitely remember acting drunk, far before I was doing it professionally. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I was thinking, like, how awesome would it be to have a little alien that could get loaded for you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but.
Because the physical act of having to drink is just exhausting to me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely just don't have the initiative to, like stick out the whole night.
I mean, the cost. Yeah, but the cost going to the fridge, cracking a new one. You know what I mean? It's just who has time? Just can you imagine just sitting there and just all of a sudden, whoa,
yeah,
oh, we're drinking. I don't
know. I feel like I would definitely want that. Connection severed ASAP. Like, I feel like there's too many once Elliot starts hitting puberty, I imagine that's gonna get awkward fast.
Yeah. Was it back and forth though? I can't remember.
It was definitely like I think they
was
shared
E.T.
it.
vibing off of Elliot? I can't remember.
That's a good question.
Because I haven't seen it in
No,
a while.
I guess it
didn't
was
get to
more
rewatch it.
one-sided. Like Elliot was vibing off of what E.T. was feeling. I think mostly they did that so he could like translate and kind of like put more of the emotions onto it.
I just love like him slamming into like the cardboard, or not cardboard, but like the cabinet drawers, stumbling around the kitchen.
Yeah.
Just
But it's funny because it's like whenever they have shots like that, like there's so many shots where it's like clearly like it feels like it's very apparent it's a dwarf in a suit or like a little person.
Dude, they had apparently, so they had, they had like 5 people doing different things. They had like a mime that was the hands. Right. Anything that was just hands was like a professional mime. That totally
makes sense.
They had a kid with no legs.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Really? Holy shit.
They had 2 little people. They had a kid who had no legs. I don't know if he was a congenital amputee.
Wow.
I don't know. But, they had like a whole apparatus, you know what I mean, of team that put this thing together. So, I mean, just to reimagine it and kind of strip that away to do the remastered version is just an insult to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like, I really don't think the juice is worth the squeeze for that sort of thing, just because, I mean, like, you're not, like, part of, I think, the reason why this movie is so special is because they got so much out of it doing it the way they did. It just, like, I feel like they've kind of calmed down on that sort of thing. Like, I feel like there's such a negative backlash to all these remasterings that I haven't heard them kind of retconning things like that lately, have they?
Unless it's an episode of Community where someone dresses up like an elf. Did you hear that one?
Oh, no.
They, Netflix is they've got their woke wands out, bro, and they're just, swiping left, swiping right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hacking and slashing, Always Sunny episodes.
Yeah.
They went after the Community Dungeons and Dragons episode. They just removed it.
Really?
Because,
that's like everyone's favorite episode.
Well, didn't save it because Chang was
right.
He was a dark elf in it or something, and they were like,
Damn.
So you're gone. You're gone. But I think South Park has a bunch of banned things. It's a weird time because, I'm a completist. I want to see all these episodes, good, bad, or ugly, whatever.
Yeah.
And for Netflix to kind of just be like, we don't think it's appropriate.
Well,
we thought it was appropriate enough to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to license the rights to it, but we're gonna censor it after the fact.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
we're gonna have it both ways.
I totally get censoring Song of the South or whatever, but yeah, I feel like you gotta pump the brakes eventually. But you know what? I noticed like this is like something that's like very throwaway, but E.T. almost had a moment that didn't age well in it because like it's really subtle, but like there's a part where when everyone's getting all dressed up for Halloween and everything like that, there's a part where the older brother like out of the room you can hear the mom and the older brother talking, and the mom's like, "What are you going as, honey?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm going as a terrorist." And the mom's like, "I'm not gonna let you dress up like that, blah blah blah." And so the next scene you see the older brother and he's got like some sort of like, I don't know, like Marx Brothers sort of get up on. Like he's got a weird hat and he's got a saw through his head. But if you look at the rest of his outfit, he's got camo pants and he's got like a fake beard stubble on and everything. And I was like, oh man,
because E.T. tries to heal him and stuff.
Yeah,
I remember that.
But it's like one of those things where you're like, did they realize how that came off as racist back then? Or like I feel like it's weird how that the movie, like it's like very subtle and the movie pivots from it, but like I don't know, it's a interesting the movie's got a bunch of like little cool throwaway moments that I think Spielberg really excels at. Like there's a moment where the mom's like trying to take a picture of everyone when they're in their Halloween get-ups, and she's got like a Polaroid camera, and like when she's bringing it out she accidentally has the Polaroid camera go off in her face and she thinks nothing of it, but like really little details like that kind of like sell the reality of stuff. Are you going
to follow up by watching Mac and Me?
No, I've seen Mac and Me, and it's
it
is such a good litmus test for like why E.T. works and that doesn't.
Well, Well, I mean, the reasons are innumerable. You know what I mean, of why Mac and Me doesn't stack up to ET.
Yeah,
You
it's
know what I
like
mean?
a
Yeah,
pale
it's
imitation,
like,
but the way they shoot it and like the designs of the characters and all this other stuff, like all that really goes to show what they did wrong and like just
right.
highlight what ET did right, essentially.
Right. It's not as simple as just getting a rubber suit and sticking a small person in it and having them trudge around.
Yeah.
But I think one of my other, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but have you ever seen a film called Beer Money? I think it's called Beer Money.
Heard of it.
Where they basically the guy who plays like Zach Morris is the kind of star of it, and it's the closest, and it's a total insane comedy about like an alien coming to the world.
Okay.
And it's great. It's just an ET ripoff. Absolutely,
Okay.
it's worse than Paul or whatever the hell that was.
Is this like 80s or 90s or?
I want to say this was like maybe 1998
Okay.
or 2000 or something.
Yeah,
Like,
I've never heard of this.
it's great. Oh yeah, it's great. I'll send you some clips.
Cool.
It's like a American Pie made
With aliens.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool.
Well, there you go. Did you? I know you've never played the Atari game, right?
Oh no, I know the legend of it and all that. The landfill and all that. Yeah, I guess. Oh yeah, the one other thing I gotta say is I'm really glad. It's interesting that this is seems like one of the few properties I haven't heard anyone say like, hey, let's dig this up and make a sequel out of it. I know that there had been apparently scrapped plans for a sequel that sounds like they have some of the synopsis online and it sounded like awful because it's like dark and it's it involves like evil versions of ET and stuff like that. Like I think it's called ET like Dark Skies or something like that. But interestingly enough, I have a cousin who's a really awesome writer. His name's M. Thomas Gamarino. He's fantastic, and he does like super weird sci-fi stories that I love. But like one of the stories that his most recent book was about a guy. It's like kind of set in an alternate universe, and it's about a guy who is a big name actor. Like he kind of was a teen heartthrob, and he was the guy that was originally cast to play Leonardo DiCaprio's part in Titanic, and he gets fired, and then he spends the rest of his life wondering what could have been. But a big part of that is that he has this whole aside where in this alternate reality, this actor stars as Elliot in the E.T. sequel, and there's like all these weird parts where they write in Elliot like kind of having a female version of E.T. as a romantic interest, and there's like a sex scene with them and all this other sort of stuff. So that I couldn't help but think of that when I was watching this movie too, because I had just read that book in the last year. But yeah, it's an interesting book. If anyone listening wants to check it out, it's called what is it called? I will think. I'm thinking that.
I'll throw it in the description or something.
King of
Send
the
me
Worlds.
the.
I'm sorry, I totally had a brain fart there. King of the Worlds.
Cool. I'll put the Amazon link in the comments. All right. Well, let's jump into mine. I mean, this was a movie that obviously, I mean, it's a huge pop culture. Just a constant. I've heard seen little clips and the scenes and I just never. I somehow never really saw it. Princess Bride. I just never. Just how many chances or whatever. Just never saw it. Anyway, so watched it with the lovely Ash the other night, and the greatest part. Ash goes, I go, you've seen Princess Bride, right? She goes, yeah, I love that movie. I love it. I go, okay, And then about 30 minutes in, she goes, wait.
Have I seen this?
Wait, hold on. I think I thought this was another movie that I liked. And I was like, oh, okay, so you're really enjoying it. She's like, yeah, So that was Ash's contribution to this, of just kind of being like, oh, I confused it with something else I actually like. I mean, it's one of those movies that, I thought it had some very interesting kind of cute elements and stuff. I just, I don't know, man. I just,
Yeah.
it's not, it's a movie for me that I was just like, I, I kind of get it. I mean, the entire time I was just kind of, you know, waiting for something. I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
you're waiting to feel
Something
something because you know that you
yeah,
should, since you've heard about this fucking movie for your entire life, and yeah,
right. And yeah, I mean, I just, I guess it's more of a like a sum of its parts kind of movie. You know what I mean
right.
to me, but kind of, I guess interesting, but to me, it just kind of, I
Not.
don't know.
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
glad you said that because I'm not gonna lie because I've seen The Princess Bride years ago, but yeah, I kind of have the same feel where it's got cool parts of it and like I guess like the acting moments and like some of the character moments I like, but like the a lot of other stuff I kind of like don't feel that much for, and maybe it was cooler in the 80s or whatever. Like it feels kind of dated, especially the sets. Like the sets I remember feeling like, oh, these all look like sound stages and like fake rocks and stuff.
right. I mean, they all, yeah. It looked like a, not a little bit nicer than a high school play,
Yeah.
but maybe like not a lot
Yeah, yeah.
nicer, And I just kept watching. I'm trying to remember his name. The Westerly, the main character,
Oh, Carrie
Carrie
Ewells.
Elwes,
Ewells. Yeah.
Ewells. And I go, oh god, like I'm just watching Men
Well,
in
that's the
Tights,
thing is, I
Robin Hood,
think
Men in Tights. It's a
Men in
lot of the
Tights
same
probably
sets, probably.
ruined. If you see Men in Tights before you see The Princess Bride, it probably ruins The Princess
Oh,
Bride for you. I
absolutely.
imagine.
I mean, that's all I'm seeing.
And
You know what I mean?
poor
Like,
Carrie Ewells, I feel like he never got past. Like I know he's been in other movies, but like he will always be Robin Hood, Men in Tights, or Princess Bride, or same character. You know what I mean?
right. I mean, I was like, it's he's also was such a big part of
Yeah,
Saw.
yeah.
That I kind of have that same vibe. When I'm seeing him and everything. But yeah, so that kind of ruined it for me. I didn't realize I was like Robin. That's Robin Wright. Damn, that's
Yeah.
like a real young
Yeah,
Robin
she
Wright.
was like
So
17 or like 18 or like she was young. Like I don't know, she was even like 18 yet or whatever when she filmed. She was definitely in that like Jennifer Connelly kind of same like in the Labyrinth kind of like really really young like starlets that ended up becoming like Hollywood for the next 2 decades or 3 decades or whatever.
yeah, that's what's weird. Like, because I'd never seen it, so I was just diving into the different, the castings and things like that. That's what I always find interesting. Like, who could have
Played.
done these
Yeah.
roles, and it's just like, I mean, they said Rob Reiner saw like 500 girls. Courtney Cox, Uma Thurman, Whoopi Goldberg, even Meg Ryan,
Of course, Meg Ryan.
and it's just like Jesus, you know what I mean? Yeah, just
It,
kind of interesting to see how Uma Thurman went off and did that. She did another like kind of medieval movie. I wanna say,
she
back
did.
in the-
Wasn't she in Baron Munchausen or something? She was in like a Terry Gilliam movie, I think. Around
Yeah,
then,
that sounds
something
right.
like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was great. What about Rob Reiner, man? Like Rob Reiner is such a weird career to me because he has such a good run with those first like 6 or 7 movies, and then it's just all trash, just like all the way down.
Well, because what he did? Did he do Stand by Me the year before this, or and then he did Spinal Tap and then
I
Stand by
think it was
Me,
Spinal
right?
Tap
And
was
then this.
first. Yeah, but all of his like best movies, I think, except for A Few Good Men, are all like within like a 5-year period or something like that. And then yeah, he's got a few hits in the '90s, and then like I think around the time he did North, like he had a couple good movies after that, but like shortly thereafter, like usually the 2000s, I feel like a lot of filmmakers that were really good in the 80s and a little bit in the 90s, like the 2000s is the death knell. It's like when like William Friedkin, he's got like a couple of movies out there, and then after Killer Joe or whatever, it just disappears. But yeah, but it's just weird that Reiner would be drawn to the subject matter because like the one thing about his first few movies is they're all totally different vibes and genres and things like that, and the fact that and Misery too, the fact that he's able to change gears like that and do like a fantasy kids movie now,
He did Misery before he did Princess Bride?
Yeah. Misery, I think, was one of his first breakouts.
I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure.
Jeez.
But yeah, I mean, so the only things that really stick with me about the Princess Bride is that one shot with the was it the manta ray or some sort of eel or something like that?
Yeah, the eels. Yeah, and then I was like, oh shit, oh cool. It's like I'm getting Neverending Story vibes, where it's gonna have these ridiculous kind of cool like monster type things, and then it just became kind of a. Am I watching Robin Hood? Like it's very like let's go rescue the damsel from the Sheriff Nottingham kind of vibes, and
yeah.
I thought it was fun how he kind of defeats the the henchman.
Oh, Walter.
Andre the Giant. Yeah, Inigo, is that Inigo?
Inigo Montoya, Indigo Montoya,
Inigo
something
Montoya.
like that. Yeah.
Inigo, I want to say. Okay. Yeah, and I thought those scenes were great. I like the kind of the banter between when he's the man in black and he's climbing the rope and they're just like, oh, throw me the rope and I'll get there faster and then you can kill me faster and blah, blah, blah. And, Andre the Giant is kind of adorable, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, oof, God, like he dies like 3 years later.
Oh, really? I didn't realize it was that soon.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah. Like I think he died at like 46 or something. So, I was like, let me just take this opportunity to like reread the Andre the Giant drinking stories, you know what I mean? So that was basically because apparently like on set because I think they filmed it all in England, and
was he just getting loaded the whole time or
loaded?
How much does it take to get that guy loaded though? Like
did quite a bit, but I just. Like the more research I did about just Andre the Giant, where like he basically did the movie because he had a match cancel in Japan, and then that kind of freed him up to be able to do it. But then his back was so jacked up that like he couldn't do a lot of the scenes, and so like the scene where he's fighting the man in black Westerly, and he's on his back and they're running around, like that whole thing. He has like a way smaller body double person doing that because he couldn't handle Carrie what's his name's weight on his back, and then everything had to be shot weird to have like supports, like the scene where he catches Buttercup out of the window. They had like she basically got dropped like a foot away, and had like a back brace on him and all this stuff, and just it kind of bummed me out when you learn all the details about like, oh, he's probably just in severe pain the entire time. I could barely understand him, you know what I mean? I know he like that's just how he sounds and everything, but like, he took like Robin Wright out to her like a dinner, and drank like a case of wine apparently, as legend has it. You know what I mean? Like. I just pulled up. I went through, like, people have collected them. I'll go through the greatest hits, you know what I mean? But
everyone's got an Andre the Giant story. Sorry, where's it?
Well, there's a bunch of people that have stories, and like people have collected them. So I just grabbed a couple of them. But there was an instance, 1975. He drank all the vodka on a flight, rather. Sorry. Yeah, the entire. He drank 106 beers on the flight.
Damn.
Jesus, he drank 6 bottles of wine before a wrestling match one time. He drank 12 bottles of wine on a bus ride in Japan with Hulk Hogan. All of a sudden, in a hotel room, he drank 102 beers in 45 minutes before a flight. He had a layover.
Jesus.
He calls Hulk Hogan. He's in Florida. He's in the Tampa airport. He says, I've got a 1 hour layover. Hulk Hogan's like 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away, or whatever. Drives to the airport. This is pre 9/11, obviously, where you could just do this. Hulk Hogan just drives to the airport, goes to the Delta Lounge, hangs out with Andre the Giant for 45 minutes, and he had 102 beers.
Jesus Christ.
In that time.
So I didn't realize him and Hulk Hogan were that tight back in the day.
Yeah, I guess, it's
or I
all
guess
wrestling.
drinking buddies,
like
co-workers and stuff.
Yeah, he apparently he had a habit where he would drink 40 ounces of various liquors poured into a pitcher.
Jesus.
And he would just he would just have them in multiple sittings.
Oh man.
Because that was one that came from Cary Elwes in a Vanity Fair interview. He said he preferred something stiffer, specifically the American, a concoction that consisted of 40 ounces of various liquors poured into a pitcher.
Jesus.
Elwes said that Andre would drink several of these in a single sitting. I've never tasted airplane fuel, he said, but I imagine it's very close to what must taste like. It's very potent. I remember coughing a lot, but to him it was like chugging water.
Wow. That's amazing.
He unofficially drank 156 beers in one sitting.
Jesus.
That's 1,872 ounces or 14.6 gallons of beer.
Oh my God.
The average human stomach can typically hold about a liter. Jesus. There was a time in Kansas City where the bartender told Andre he could only stay in the bar if he was drinking. So Andre thanked him and proceeded to order 40 vodka tonics. He sat there drinking them one after another, finishing the last at just after 5 a.m.
Jesus.
There's one where he pounded 2 cases of beer during an hour-long car ride.
Wow.
So one night in Sarasota, Andre is traveling with us. So we pull over and get 2 cases of Tall Boys. By the time we get from Sarasota to the Tahitian Inn on Dale Mabry, the 2 cases were bone dry. So, I mean, just that can't be good for your health.
Yeah, I mean, I assume, like, you kind of probably drink for the pain a little bit over time.
I mean,
but, like,
yeah.
I'm sure that wasn't great for his liver or other health problems.
Apparently he was 500 pounds. So
That's
it's
insane.
like, his liver must have been the size of my... I don't know if I have a body
like
part
your torso or something. Like,
yeah, exactly.
arm.
You know what I mean? Like my gut or something. I don't know. Just, but I mean, my God, dude. You know what I mean? Can't be good for you.
Yeah.
But I thought he was delightful. I liked
Yeah,
him.
he was, like the actors in it. I think are pretty great. Wallace Shawn obviously is pretty amazing, and
Yep. Well, that scene, I think I couldn't like focus on that scene.
the one where he's switching the poisons or whatever.
Switching the poisons and back and forth and back and I was just like, oh, look at Reddit for a second, come back, and it just know what I mean, come back, So I remember looking up and he just collapses. And I'm like, oh, I guess he.
Yes.
But he put poison in both glasses or something, but he was immune to the poison.
Yeah, I think he built up a tolerance to it before. Yeah, I think Wallace Shawn, I could be wrong, but I think he was like, this was right around like My Dinner with Andre or something like that. So I think he was like,
right, which is also on HBO Max.
Oh, nice. Well,
if you're interested,
it's a good pairing with Wonder Woman or something like that. But I think he was like such a big figure in like kind of that like Manhattan intellectual community or whatever, that maybe it was like, him being a smart aleck is kind of like a play on like, his general vibe or whatever, his image and shit.
Mm-hmm. I thought he was great. Danny DeVito, they wanted him to play the role, but it went to Wallace. So, but Danny DeVito would have been perfect in that troll. Bossing around, mongering role. You know? But I thought it was interesting. I always like these kind of castings of I thought it was crazy that Arnold Schwarzenegger was into it, but then he blew up and he got too expensive.
So was he going to be the Carrie Mules part or whatever? Like, I can't picture that at all. That would have been.
He was going to be the Fezzik. He was going to be Andre the Giant.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. Okay, so how about
Danny DeVito was supposed to be Fazzini.
Okay.
Or was up for it. That's who Rob Reiner wanted, but Danny DeVito was pretty.
He was doing Twins with Arnold at that point, or something.
Yeah, so. But I mean, they offered it to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Liam Neeson auditioned to play the Andre the Giant part, Fezzik. And I
mean, I know he's tall, but like he's not like I feel like he needs somebody.
He's not that
exactly.
Tall. No, I mean, you literally have a giant.
Exactly.
You know what I mean, like I can't imagine anyone else kind of in the role. You know what I mean? So, but I didn't understand. The man's name is Mandy. Mandy.
Are you talking about Mandy Patinkin?
Yeah.
Are you talking about?
Mandy
He was the Inigo Montoya, the dude from Homeland.
Yes. Yes, from Homeland. That's Criminal Minds. Is it Criminal Minds?
Something like
that.
he's like one of those guys. I didn't realize old Mandy Patinkin was. I didn't realize Mandy Patinkin. Like I knew the name, and I didn't realize the old guy from Homeland was Mandy Patinkin, and that I kind of knew Mandy Patinkin. It's kind of like Joe Piscopo. Like I kind of know certain people more from name, and I could not tell you like what they're famous for, or
yes,
you know what I mean.
Totally. Just interesting. Yeah. But are you ready for the? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, was anyone like big thought of for Robin Wright's role or the two leads or anything?
Yeah. So Robin Wright. I mean, we kind of talked about Uma Thurman, Whoopi Goldberg, or whatever. But I think Christopher Reeve was up for kind of the lead role, but didn't work out. And then Rob Reiner just really liked your dude Carrie.
Good old Carrie.
There you go. Fred Savage.
Oh yeah, so that's what I wanted to ask. So the whole thing with fucking what's his name, Matlock and Fred Boy Meets World, or not Boy Meets World, Wonder Years. How did you feel about the wraparound story? With Fred Savage, and Columbo. That's what I meant.
I didn't think it was that bad. Yeah, I mean, it I guess you had to figure out some way to kind of. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, it was kind of interesting, but that it was like this long old book, and then the whole book has like this. I was reading just the Wikipedia page for the book, basically. But
is the book famous? Is that like a known?
Yeah, I think the book's semi-famous. Because he basically the guy who wrote the book, I think is William Gibson. I'm trying to remember, but he wrote
it's not William.
He wrote
Gibson,
it as if it's no, not William Gibson, but it's what's his name? Let me look it up. William Goldman.
Okay, gotcha.
But he posed it as if it's like a Hans Christian fairy tale thing. So he writes this book, but then attributes this other author as the actual writer of it, and then he's basically just introducing this story that someone else wrote. Like that's
there's like
a book is
there's like a bookend thing in the book itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the book is very meta apparently. So it's just like, it's one man's telling of another, like a long told fairy tale kind of a thing. So I think that's the device they decided to use so that it didn't seem. I guess it's unnecessary because you could just straight out just make this movie.
Yeah, so like
without all.
I guess if you're trying to stay true to the book, that's where the Fred Savage kind of adaptation comes in. But that's one of the things. Not having known that it was based on a previous book or any of that sort of stuff you just told me, like that's one of the things that always kind of stood out to me. Like I thought all of the stuff between Fred Savage and the grandpa was like cute and good. Like I think the scenes are good, but it's so feels like it's out of like a fucking sitcom or something, especially considering like they were both big TV actors at the time. Like it feels like somebody just changed the channel on the thing I was watching, and like it still never feels like it totally connects. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's a distracting little story. Usually when there's like a story within a story, there's like more of a meaning. Like there's like the story within the story kind of connects to the outer world more, and like I feel like this is just like, oh yeah, Grandpa read a story to his kid and the kid liked it, and the end. You know what I mean?
You just want to talk about The Notebook, right?
I've never seen The Notebook.
So the Notebook does basically the same thing. I don't want to ruin it for you, but basically it does something similar.
Interesting.
So I'm sure someone's screaming at us right now. But,
how dare you?
Well, maybe that could be your next one, man.
Oh, Christ.
That could be your next.
You don't want to go watch Cool Hand Luke, but you'll watch The Notebook?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm down for either one. So there's a ton of more classics on both of us.
There's like, we all got blind spots that we can go, and rabbit holes we can go down. I mean, yeah.
And with my addition, my windfall of HBO Max, it's got a lot of classics that I just been kind of buried in, so I'll go back in and I'll try to find something new, and we'll come up with something else. But we're still waiting for you to mainline all the Fast and Furious films straight into your
I tell you what, I'll do it when that fucking movie finally actually gets a release date, or I feel like we got to ramp up to a Fast and Furious movie if I'm gonna go full Diesel on.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You get to watch Vin Diesel. His testosterone replacement therapy spans 20 years.
Oh my god, I hate him so much. And it's also like, I think the Rocky saga that I watched was like way easier because I was like interested in those movies. I Fast and Furious has never really interested in me, and there's 10 of them so far. So it's like, okay, I gotta be in the right mindset to do this because I might lose my mind.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, think of another classic film. Nick's working on his. Ash hasn't seen any movies, so that's easy. But yeah, we'll keep thinking about different items and take it from there. But I'm off the top of my head, I'll find something. I'm always, but finding something for you is always the a little bit more tricky. So. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even know what to throw at you because
you had mentioned something about like old Cronenberg movies. Like I like Cronenberg's one of my favorite directors. So I feel like we just got to find something weird. So there's got to be something that's classic but is like dark and weird, and then I'll be into it.
But you've seen Scanners, right? So Scanners is on.
Yeah.
Scanners is on HBO Max. I
honestly.
Not really seen. Yeah. I mean, I've seen the clips, of course, but like,
if I'm being honest, Scanners is like one of my least favorite Cronenberg movies. I think that shot in it that everyone always references is amazing.
Right, the head explosion.
But like, yeah, apparently he wrote that movie. Like he like was writing that movie on like lunch breaks while they were shooting it. Like it's very, and Michael Ironside's great in it. But like it's like I don't think that holds together as well. But like whatever. There's got to be something out there. I feel like there's some weird deep cuts or something like that. Or like when you're on all the streaming sites now, there's like a lot of like weird old classics. Like I'm seeing movies that I definitely saw when I was a kid, and like like there are movies that you're like when you see them super young, you're like, that was fucking weird, but it must have been because I was a kid, and then you like see them later on in life and you're like, oh no, that was just something weird that was on TV that I probably shouldn't have seen at that age. You know what I mean? Yep. I'm seeing a lot of those on streaming sites now, so maybe we can like dig up one of those. Well,
there you go. Keep an eye out. Mine will probably, I don't know. Both of ours are going to be weird.
Yeah, we'll figure out something. We'll talk it over. We'll text in the next few months.
Well, there you go. Do you have any closing arguments? Any further thoughts?
Nah, man. I'm digging this so far. I feel like it's a good excuse to finally round out some of those things that you're like obligated to see.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, I've got Citizen Kane and I can go on and on. So, well, there you go. You guys have plenty to look forward to if you enjoy us not watching your favorite movies growing up. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. Click subscribe, leave us a comment. Make sure you turn the bell notification on to make sure you get all of our updates, not just some of them. I don't know how any of this works, any of the nonsense on YouTube, but. Yeah, if you guys want to, Nick put us on Spotify.
Holy shit!
If you want to find us on Spotify,
we're famous.
We're legit. Yeah, so we're trying to get that Joe Rogan money, one download at a time. So if you can,
we need to get sponsored by Blue Apron. That's when we have, or HelloFresh. That's when we've actually made
I just want to read an ad spot. I want to do it for Stamps.com.
Yes. Oh my God.
Guys could help make that possible. Do you have shipping needs that Stamps.com could help with? Yeah, I want to be sponsored by Audible.
You know what I mean? Let's just. How about we just start from now on? Let's just do these podcasts and say we're sponsored by Audible, and maybe they'll just give us money eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I joked that I had one thing that was sponsored by Charmin.
Did they start sending you toilet paper?
No, I'm still using repurposed Kleenex toilet paper made for Depression era toilet paper is what I'm dealing with.
Scraps of cardboard.
Exactly. I might as well just go pick leaves off trees. But thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. And, we're going to go and keep doing the smaller segments. So if you like kind of the bite-sized videos, just keep an eye out for that. And we'll have more coming out later. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Nice. All right, I am hitting the stop button now.